This is the Illinois Nutrient Loss Reduction Podcast, Episode 63, Data-Intensive Farm Management, a Precision Agriculture Revolution. I'm University of Illinois Extension's Todd Gleason. Have you ever wanted to lay out field trials on your own farm, whether they be strip trials or checkerboard trials, and maybe do it across the whole of the field? Well, that second part probably would be very difficult, but not anymore, because the DIFM, that's the Data Intensive Farm Management Program, which uses precision agriculture technology with researchers and farmers working together to conduct these kinds of large-scale trials, gathering all kinds of data, vast amounts of data, in fact, on how crop yields respond to input application rates, field characteristics, and weather. David Bullock heads up the team here on the Urbana-Champaign campus and across the United States that has been working with the DIFM, funded by a grant from the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I asked him to explain just exactly what it is.
It's a cyber infrastructure, if I can use that term. It's something that farmers and crop consultants and researchers can use to run experiments, agronomic field trials on their own farms. Not just run them, but get the data, have the data processed, and get statistical, get advice from the data about how to farm, data-intensive farm management. It involves using precision technology. Farmers can create what many know as shape files that have trial designs on them. Much like they'd upload a prescription, from a commercial crop consultant, except it puts the experiment in the ground. So these, instead of being like a small plot trial, which is as big as a couple of basketball courts, these can be hundreds and hundreds of acres, and farmers can find out a great deal about, you can check. I'm putting 32,000 seed per acre down. Does that seem right? All right. Well, in what years does it seem right? What's the weather? Where on the field do I need more seed? Where on the field do I need less seed? We get data on that. So instead of trying to rely on on various small plot trials to get data, which are great and have their purposes, farmers are getting data right there on their own fields. So you're getting data from the fields you're trying to manage. And we think we're helping farmers make some good decisions and make more money.
I do want to talk about the larger scope of the DIFM. However, off the top of my head, farmers are likely to ask, 1, who does the data belong to? And 2, can I do a strip trial? Because that's what I'm used to.
What data are we collecting? First of all, the data is the farmer's data. Okay, the farmers own the data. We will not sell it. We will not give it away. We will not let anybody look at it without the farmer's written permission. We do reserve the right to use the data, the current data for the next several years, for academic research, because we have to show that what we're doing is working. Okay, so we will use the data for academic research, but nothing else. The data is safe. It's in the Oracle system, so the Russians can't get at it. And so it's the farmer's data. What kind of data? Often, lots of kinds of data. Principally, the most important thing we get is experimental data, which means we change the data of farm management. Okay, it could be a nitrogen trial, right? How much nitrogen do you put in the ground in different places? It could be a pivot bio trial. It could be a hybrid trial. It could be a seed rate trial, or pretty much any crop that the farmer can monitor the yield, and any input that the farmer can variable rate. We can do experiments with it. And so it's pretty revolutionary. I know that sounds big-headed of me to say that, but I think this can change how agronomy is done. And I think it can change the world. And again, I know that sounds pretty uppity, but I'm not the only one who thinks that. We can get data from farmers' own farms, farmers' own fields, and help them know what's going on. Now, one of the things we do, you always hear about agricultural big data. You go on the internet and there's all kinds of pretty pictures of satellites hooking onto tractors, and they're doing all sorts of site-specific stuff. And then we've got all this data. Here's the thing, and this is really fundamental. If you don't change management and look at the results, you're not going to find out how to manage better. And what field trials do is they change management. They change, okay, how many soybean seeds am I going to put on? And you put different amounts on, and you see what happens. You look at yield. Now, with that, sure, you want to look at electrical conductivity. You want to use, elevation, topology, all this stuff you can get from satellites, all this stuff you can get from drones. All that data comes into play. But think about it. You can take as many pictures in the sky from satellites as you want. If it's taking a picture of a field where the farmer, put down 200 pounds of nitrogen everywhere on the field, you're not going to be able to do anything to think about, well, maybe he should have put on 170 pounds. Maybe he should have put on 230 pounds, because that's not in the data. If you want to learn how to manage a farm, you have to get data that changes management. And that's what field trials are for. And there's been a great deal of excitement about agricultural big data. A lot of garbage is garbage. The DIFM is trying to focus on the kinds of data that farmers need to farm better. And we have a pretty narrow focus. We're not trying to grab every piece of data that ever came out of a 1970s hybrid trial. Okay? We are focusing narrowly, but we're getting tons of great data, and it makes sense how we're doing it. There's a tremendous amount of smoke and mirrors going on in the digital ag space and the big data space, big ag data space. And what we're doing isn't smoke and mirrors. It makes a lot of sense.
This prompts a couple of related questions. First, is there a cost to use the program? And secondly, are farmers likely to have the equipment already in their tractor cabs in order to use the program?
Most Illinois farmers do. Yeah, most Illinois farmers, if you've bought a combine, in the past, 15 years, then you've probably got a yield monitor on there. Okay, if you bought a planter in the last 15 years, you've probably got, variable rate planting abilities. Now, there are places in the country where there are small fields, et cetera. Not all farmers have that, but in Illinois, most of the farmers have some precision technology. Now, they don't always know what to do. They'll tell me, if I had $1, I got all this data, I don't know what to do with it. You got tons of data and you don't know what to do with it. Well, we can help you know what to do with it. Not only that, but our system helps process the data and analyze the data and give hints and give the farmer something to talk about with a crop consultant. Why is this going on in the southwest part of the field? Is that because there's a lot of clay content? We're not trying to tell farmers, do this, we're the experts. We're trying to tell farmers, look at this, here's some data, let's think about it. This will start a conversation. Now, does it cost anything? No. I mean, first of all, we give every farmer $1,000 for dealing with my personality, basically. But then we also compensate farmers. We can estimate pretty close, this field lost $800 because they did the trial. Why? Because some of the rates were too low and some of them were too high and they lost some money. Okay, well, we write a check for $800. The program we're working with is the USDA NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service. And they have a program called on-farm trials, and they want to subsidize on-farm experimentation. So one of the things they want to do is make sure that we make sure farmers don't lose money doing this. It's of course it takes a little thought. Of course it takes a little time. Not a lot. It's not a huge learning curve. It is very doable.
What's the vision for the future past the time you get through the USDA grants and such?
The vision for the future is to create a system. First of all, we've done hundreds of trials over the past, since 2016. We don't want to do hundreds of trials. We want to do tens of thousands of trials, and we want to do tens of thousands of trials every year. Okay? How do we want to do that? We want to work with farmers and consultants and make it user-friendly that they can design these trials, put these trials in the ground, deal with the data, get ideas from the data. Okay? How do we do that? Well, you got to come up with a user-friendly atmosphere, and we've got one. Anybody can go to DIFM.farm, DIFM.farm, and look at the website. And you can easily go in there and design your own trials and just see how it works. Send me an email, and you can put the trial on the ground with the guarantee that you don't lose any money. So all you can do is get information. It's very doable. Our vision is that farmers all over the world are using this tool, and it could be crop consultants using it. It could be, I don't care, if some big company wants to use this as part of, their operations center or whatever, fine. We're not creating a commercial product. We're trying to create a public product that lots of people can use in lots of places to learn about farming, site specifically.
Are there any notable outcomes from the DIFM to this point that you can elaborate upon?
Yeah, sure. I mean, some of it is farm specific. There are some fields where it's pretty clear, oh boy, here in the low-lying part of the field, you really should put more seed on if you think there's going to be some rain, this kind of thing, or if you don't think that, or it all depends, right? So we've got many, many, many reports that go to farmers that give them site-specific advice. Sometimes in Illinois, where people got a flat and black 80, what we find is you don't need a precision. You don't need a site-specific this thing. It's pretty much uniform every place. And so do the same thing. We use precision ag to figure out sometimes, you don't really need precision agriculture for this field. It's a possibility, right? And sometimes you don't. As far as findings, we're finding a lot of farmers paying too much for soybean seed consistently, especially in a little west of here where it's a little drier. They're basically going to make more money if they lower their soybean seed rates. Some of that for corn seed rates, especially in like the Dakotas. Okay, we're finding that we are not going to precision agriculture our way out of the nitrogen problem. Okay, when we started out, we had hoped, look, we'll use precision agriculture and we'll find out where we can not put very much nitrogen on and where we can put a lot of nitrogen on and be okay. And that's all fine, except the point there was that, look, this can be a win-win situation because farmers, we know they're putting way too much nitrogen on. They're losing money. That's not clear at all. We've got data, and it shows that no, on average, Illinois farmers, lots of farmers, they're not just piling on so much nitrogen on there that they're losing money. Sure, it could happen in any year, but in general, and nobody knew that before now. There was a lot of speculation. We've got the data to show that's not happening.
Is there any information or data that you've already collected which might point to ways where nutrient loss issues could be solved?
Yes, there is. There are possibilities, right, of sites specifically making things better. Okay, and there's some possibility there, but it's not going to be enough. Okay, we are doing cover crops trials. Okay, we are writing a proposal to use our system so that farmers can be subsidized by the government to do cover crop trials. Okay, so how's that work? Well, all of a sudden we've got the data. The farmers, of course, would allow the government to see that, yeah, I really did plant these crops. So you don't have to send an inspector out all the time. And we have a really efficient way to create science on cover crops. Okay, and farmers could run the cover crop trials. The idea was that the government would give them subsidies so they don't lose a lot of money doing cover crop trials. And what do you know? All of a sudden we know much more about what's going on. We're not just scattershot doing this trial here, this trial there. We can have a system of 1,000 trials, and it's all very efficient. Our system helps keep the data clean. It helps make the experiments, have common protocols all around so you can use the data together. I think it's revolutionary. And so part of the point is to help the NRCS make better policies and make things possible for farmers that weren't possible before. I'm very excited about it. So what are we doing? Well, I've got to find more money. So far, we've found $9 million since 2016. So somebody thinks this is a good idea, and I think the payoff is going to be way greater than that. I think this is a terrific public investment. And so, our hope is we have some people who are just brilliant computer coders and got some people who brilliantly work with farmers. And I think we'd love to just start something with a few employees that makes it possible for wonderful things to happen. So where are we going? Yeah, I gotta find some more money.
How have the primary agricultural input companies responded to DIFM, or the Data Intensive Farm Management Program? These would be the chemical, fertilizer, and seed companies.
To some degree, we have flown under the radar, and we have meant to fly under the radar. It's only now that we're starting to try to publicize what we're doing more. We are getting a lot of response from co-ops and from crop consultant industry. So that's the part of the private sector that we're working with and we need to work with. Our view is that Illinois Extension can probably deal with crop consultants, and crop consultants can help farmers. There's just not enough extension agents around, and that's not the right, maybe not the right, paradigm anymore. The idea is that we can use a lot of computers and work with the private industry, whose job is already to give farmers advice, to make these things happen. So that's our goal. If any big company wants to talk with us, now we are talking with Microsoft. Okay, they have a whole digital ag thing going on, and then we're going to work with them. Okay, so there's some of that. We are not in talks with John Deere or all these things. Happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk. Okay, we're not. We're trying to give a public good. I'm 63 years old. We're not trying to start a business. We're trying to create something for the public.
How quickly do you need people to sign up, and can farmers still be involved for this season?
Yeah, farmers can be involved this year. You want to work with us? Give me an email. We'll get it. But even if you don't want to work quite that quickly, if you're going to do a side dress, if you're going to do some side dressing, we got time. You can either go to DIFM.farm and see what you got. You can email me, dsbulloc@illinois.edu, and we'll get you started. We can easily do lots of trials this spring.
David Bullock is an agricultural economist here on the Urbana-Champaign campus of the University of Illinois. If you'd like to make contact with him to learn more about the DIFM, that stands for Data Intensive Farm Management Program, you can do so by visiting the DIFM website. That's DIFM.farm, DIFM.farm, and then hit Team, and you'll find both David's phone number and his email address. The Illinois Nutrient Loss Reduction Podcast is a production of University of Illinois Extension and produced in association with Rachel Curry and Nicole Haverback. I'm Extension's Todd Gleason.